Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch is brought to you by Nedbank.
All right, it's 1400 hours. You're watching Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you for joining us. My name is Sifiso Ngumalo.
I am Natilisi Tole, and this is the first edition of Nedbank Business Watch for the year 2026. Good to be back. Swiss, how are you?
Doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm great. And on the program today, as the back-to-school season kicks off, parents are, of course, faced with the reality of school fees, cost of uniforms, stationery and transport. Now, this definitely strains household budgets. And for some families, this period rather brings long queues at the banks and tough financial decisions that need to be made. In response, Nedbank is stepping into the rescue, sharing practical money management tips and promoting convenient digital banking solutions designed to help parents pay school-related expenses with ease, avoid unnecessary stress, and plan ahead for future educational costs. So that is a conversation coming up right here on the program later today.
And of course, on my end, we begin with education and accountability. The Eswatini Higher Education Council has released an updated list of credible institutions, and this comes with major changes. New institutions have now been fully registered, while others have been suspended due to non-compliance. What does this mean for parents? What does it mean for students, as well as anyone that is planning to further their studies this year? How do you separate legitimate institutions from those that are operating illegally? Misha Kumalo, the Advocacy and Communications Officer at the Eswatini Higher Education Council, is going to unpack these updates and what they mean for the public. And then later, we're going to turn to the economy. There, the International Monetary Fund has projected that the Kingdom of Eswatini's economic growth will reach 4.6% in 2026. Now, this is driven by both public and private sector projects, but there are very, very important critical questions. Which sectors are expected to drive this growth, and what does this projection mean for jobs and livelihoods? And with SACU revenues continuing to decline, what can be done to strengthen economic performance? Economist Sanelis Via will break it all down. Stay with us.
Well, to kick off the year, in fact, do enjoy the program. Stay with us for the next hour. For now, we'll go for a break. After that, we do have our news bulletin, rather our business news stories.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
All right, we're 4 minutes into the program. We begin with our news now.
We're starting off with this. The African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, is set to be renewed for Eswatini for the next 3 years. The Minister for Commerce, Industry and Trade, Honorable Manqoba Khumalo, has announced that the U.S. Congress has approved the extension of AGOA. Speaking at the private sector contemplations for 2026 meeting at Business Eswatini at Mafini, the minister said there are still a few procedural steps to be completed, including the agreement being passed by Senate in the U.S.
Congress in the U.S. has approved a 3-year extension of AGOA, and Eswatini is on the list of eligible countries. I'm aware that now that same bill has to go to Senate in the U.S. and get passed, but everything that we see speaking to our counterparts in the Trade Representative Office in the U.S. tells us we can be sure that it will be passed.
Business Eswatini's president, which is the host of almost all the companies that export through AGOA, Vuselelo Fagudze, shares what this means for the business community.
In a world that is changing very quickly and very fast, certainty is a very important part in business, because as business people we influence policy, we advise, but at the end of the day we take whatever governments decide and implement them. So we are very appreciative of, as the business sector in Eswatini, of that opportunity to continue the partnership with the American government and them giving access to our local companies and local private sector.
Business Federation of Eswatini's president, Thulisile Dladla, says the prospects of the renewal of AGOA comes as a relief for the business community. She says there are women in the rural communities who are being trained by Business Women Eswatini in garment manufacturing, and this will give them an opportunity at exporting. Pendulile Zigalala, Secretary General of the Federation of Trade Unions Eswatini in the private sector, says the extension of AGOA guarantees employment opportunities.
Sinabomake labaku ngiyacabanga ukuthi niyade labaku textile and vukani bomake uyaba empowerisha lemakhaya nase sibuka nje sibuka forward kulo 3 years laba sirenewela yena ngoba vele sesithi bayasirenewela mina sengibona iexport iyakhula lakithi.
That means sustainability, of course, for the economy, and also it means maybe re-engagement in terms of jobs. It also means progress and continuity and sustainability. And I hope and faith that we'll still have jobs, especially in the textile industry.
In October last year, the Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade reported that in the year 2024 alone, Eswatini traded over 1 billion emalangeni under AGOA. The manufacturing sector has the largest exports under the agreement. Reporting, Nelson Dlangamandla, Fuminkosi Nzinisa, Ezulwini.
Well, in other news, Business Eswatini has committed to stepping up investment in electricity generation. This is in response to growing pressures in the energy sector. President Vuselelo Fagudze said that with the Eswatini Electricity Company seeking to increase electricity tariffs by more than 20% in the financial year 2026-2027, the business community now faces a critical responsibility to invest in power generation as well as to help stabilize supply. He was speaking during the private sector contemplations for 2026, a meeting that was held at Emafini. The meeting was held under the theme King, Country and Business.
The EC has just asked for a 20% increase in tariffs. That means that the cost of electricity is going to be expensive for Eswatini. The private sector is going to be investing a lot in energy, in not just this year. We started last year, we'll continue into this year and the following year to improve generation capacity for the kingdom so that we can rely less on imported electricity and generate our own. When we do that, and when we are able to do that, we are then going to be able to attract even more industries to come and set up manufacturing plants, agro-processing units in the kingdom to ensure that we can also supply the local market, but also for the export market.
All right, that marks our business news notes here, and I suppose Eswatini are well furnished about what is making the headlines when it comes to business development in the Kingdom of Eswatini.
And now that you're up to speed with all that's shaping the world of business in the country, we'll go for a break. After that, we're in conversation with the Eswatini Higher Education Council. Stay tuned.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406 7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Right, welcome back to the program. We did hint when we started the program that we'll be in conversation with Mihla Khumalo on the backdrop of the Eswatini Higher Education Council, which has released an updated list of credible institutions. And of course, some of those have been listed and people have been furnished with the names of those institutions. But he's in studio right now and we want him to help us really understand what these updates mean. So, Mihla, welcome to the program. A very good afternoon to you. We hope you're having a good day. Take us through this new list and what the key updates are that people should be aware of.
Okay, thanks, Sfiso, and thanks to the viewer at home. Actually, we usually release the list on a quarterly basis, but you find that as we are progressing with our work, we may even update it earlier. So the one we've just released has some notable changes. You know, some of these changes include programs which have been added in some institutions, and some of the institutions have been registered fully.
Yeah.
Meaning that these institutions were operating previously, but they were operating provisionally. So how we usually work is that there are standards which are supposed to be followed when you are establishing an institution, and the programs which are being offered by that particular institution are also supposed to be vetted by the regulator, which is Eswatini Higher Education Council.
Yeah.
Yes, but in some instances you find that there are institutions out there which are not registered, which then poses a threat to the public because, you know, the pitfalls of registering in institutions which are not legally registered is that you end up having a qualification which is totally useless to say the least.
Yeah.
So we usually carry out our work, and the aim of having registered programs is that these programs are supposed to inform the needs of the country, you know. These programs are supposed to be responsive, you know. These days we are talking about unemployment.
Yeah.
We are talking about saturation, where you find that a particular program maybe has overproduced a number of graduates. And Eswatini Higher Education Council, during the progress of checking these programs, we make sure that we have needs assessment which are informed by industry, by businesses, by the public, to ensure that these programs which are to be offered are programs which are really needed by the country.
Yeah. Is it just three of them? Because I believe there's soft tech,
Yes.
there's UTech,
Yes.
and there is Eswatini College of Theology.
Yes.
And if it's just the three of them, if you will, just submit to the viewer at home how they can access the list.
Okay, the fully registered institutions are some of those we have mentioned, but maybe I might want to single out UTech. UTech had previously been suspended for a year because the programs they're offering were no longer credible. So we had to suspend them for a year. Then we worked together in ensuring that they introduce localized diploma programs.
Okay.
So another thing, when an institution is suspended, it doesn't entirely mean that we've thrown that institution into the bin. We work together to ensure that the programs which are going to be offered are going to be those which are reputable. Then after we've done our processes, the institution can come back.
Yeah.
So another way of accessing our list is to go to our website, which is www.ishec.org.sz. You can also visit our social media pages. We are on X, we are on Facebook, and LinkedIn as well. That's where the list is accessible.
Yeah.
And another piece of advice we usually have is that because the list is updated now and again, it's advisable that before you make a decision, you upload the latest list just to make sure that the changes which are there are still relevant.
Yeah, so it is very imperative for anyone that is looking to register with any of the institutions to go through the website first.
Yes.
And the website always has the updated list of the ones that are credible, the ones that have been brought back from suspension, because as you mentioned, UTEC had been previously suspended, but they've just been brought back. And the issue of non-compliance, I believe you are emphasizing, when an institution is suspended, it is because they were non-compliant to certain standards. I think that's very important. Now let's talk to parents and prospective students. How can they verify credibility of an institution now before enrolling? Just besides going into the website, is there any possible other way they can verify credibility of an institution before applying?
I think a full proof of verifying that an institution is credible is to touch base with the Eswatini Higher Education Council. Remember that you are the regulator, so the only place you can get the latest information is through our office.
Sure.
As I have said before, that even you cannot go and retrieve a list which was published last year because the changes happen in a frequent manner. So it's advisable that you get guidance from the office so that you can be sure that the list you have is the list which has the latest changes.
Yeah. Let's speak to the parent and the student who is in a conundrum of they've applied to the credible institutions and unfortunately they were not accepted. Now they have this temptation of enrolling into an institution that is not registered with you guys, which in essence is not credible. And you said when you began speaking that essentially, and you were being respectful, you said that certificate that you get there is useless, to say the least. And you mean that respectfully. You know, speak to those people, because there is that temptation when you are not accepted in the credible ones to then go into these ones, and yet they just want your money, if we're being honest.
Okay, so as we're interacting with our stakeholders, some of them have given us the information that the temptation is there.
Yeah.
But we've tried to explain that you know, this being a formal sector, it's guided by standards and regulations and frameworks. You know, with the issue of admissions, the admissions in higher education institutions are guided by the Eswatini qualifications framework. So, for example, if you want to apply for a diploma or a degree, let me use a degree usually requires 6 credits. So once someone tells you that they can take you in that particular program with 3 credits, automatically you know that something is wrong. Another thing is that even if that particular institution can take you on and you study and complete your degree, you won't be able to evaluate that particular certificate. Remember, the frameworks we have are tied to regional frameworks, continental ones, and international ones. Reason being is that if you have a particular qualification from a local institution, once you want to migrate and further your studies or even find employment outside of the country, they have to be able to evaluate it and pair it with the particular framework in that country. So, for instance, someone who wants to further maybe his studies, you have a degree from Eswatini, you move on to the UK, you are able to get there and register for a master's degree because of those particular standards and framework which we aim to uphold. Yes.
So essentially, what Mihla is submitting, viewers at home, is that a credible institution, and that is one that is under their list, will give you a credible certificate or a degree or a qualification that can be evaluated and be found credible. But if the institution that you are tempted to enroll in is not credible, which means it's not a part of their list, it is also going to equal your qualification or your certificate to be not credible. So, Mihla, as we end our conversation, just a parting message that you want to relay to the viewer at home as well as the parent.
Okay, I'd like to maybe urge parents and learners as well, or prospective students, to make sure that they do enroll in credible institutions. And another thing, maybe I might have left it out earlier, is that the list is also now being used by employers.
Okay.
So even HR personnel in different industries, they touch base with the list because they want to make sure that if they employ someone, that particular person has a qualification from a credible institution. So the safest thing to do now is to make sure that if you enroll to an institution which is local, make sure that that particular institution is credible.
Mr. Thank you for your time. He is the Communications and Advocacy Officer from ESHEC. The message is simple, but the indirect message, which he also inferred when he made that example of 3 credits, getting you into an institution where you're looking for a degree. Do not do that. If you have 3 credits, you may want to look at, fixing your other credits or looking for a different kind of certification, but not a degree. But he's essentially saying everything has to be by merit and not by favor or by illegal means. Let's go for a quick ad break. The show continues when we return.
Welcome back. You are still watching Nedbank Business Watch right here on Eswatini TV. Now, it is the back-to-school season and expenses are mounting. However, that should be a call for families to be financially smart. And Nedbank Eswatini has just the right tips on how you and your family and your different households can actually spend money wisely this season. And I'm joined now by Bagcinile Simelane, who is Team Leader Sales at Nedbank Eswatini. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having us today.
Glad to have you on the show. So what are some financial tips for parents, for families, as they prepare for the back-to-school season?
Okay, firstly, we advise that families should budget and stick to their budget as well so that they know their expenses in due time before they actually occur. And it helps them plan better so that they know that they have the right funds allocated for back to school. Like you're saying, they don't find themselves not now having the sufficient funds to actually cover the school fees and all other needs for kids when they're going back to school. Also, we do encourage them to save. Saving does help because it cushions them for whatever needs they have that are outside their normal budget. So the saving is also highly recommendable.
And what would be your tip in terms of budgeting? Because it's very much difficult for some people, I know one person in particular, to stick to their budget, So what would you say, how then do we stick with the budget as much as we need to save, but we also probably have 3 kids that we need to send to school?
Yeah, well, I would say you need to be disciplined around your budget. Once you've written down how much you're allocating for each expense, you just need to stick to that. You can maybe create a small margin, but I wouldn't encourage it because then you go beyond that. So my tip would be just stick to the budget. I know the kids can be convincing and put so much pressure on you, but you need to stick to the budget so that you don't find yourself under financial distress at the end of the day. Yeah.
Now, what are some of the financial products that Nedbank offers to help families cope, with the back-to-school expenses?
Okay, we do offer personal loans that we give over a tenure of 60 months. And then we also give educational loans that we give over a tenure of 12 months. The educational loans are short-term intentionally so that the parent is able to facilitate fees for the 1 year and is able to come back for assistance the following year and apply for another educational loan, because if it's long term, then it defeats the purpose. We also offer overdrafts, which also basically act as a buffer, just in case you are you need extra funds outside your normal salary, we also offer advances that you're able to pay over 3 months. So we work around those products basically to assist you. Yeah.
You know, we're starting out the year and everybody had their New Year's resolutions, whether it's body or it's finances.
Yeah.
But, you know, sometimes you plan and things don't always go according to plan. And this period, during this period in particular, everyone needs money.
True.
Or almost.
Yeah.
So what are some of the common financial challenges that families face during this back-to-school period, and how can they work around them?
Okay, firstly, the main and the biggest challenge that we see from year to year is overspending during the festive season. So people find themselves now digging into the pocket that's not meant even to celebrate and go with the hype of the festive. So that's where the problem starts. And then when the year starts and reality hits that, hey, kids need to go back to school now, how do we solve for this issue? So basically, if you have an ongoing personal loan, for instance, that you have not finished paying up, we do offer the option to actually revolve or top up the loan that you have so that you can have access to just those funds that are enough to assist you wherever you need cushioning or patching up where now you are short of funds. Then, like I said, we also do offer the overdraft. The overdraft is also very effective because it's basically like a limit that is available over 12 months as well. So I think we just need to learn to stick to our budget and make sure that when we spend, we don't overspend. We capitalize on discounts as well, because sometimes we just end up buying something because it's this brand, whereas there's something that's offering you the same value but less. You find yourself spending less. Go for that product instead, so that you're able to save here and there.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, with regards to you saying overspending, especially during the festive season, is a challenge, and it's actually then goes on to the expenses in January.
Yes.
Perhaps from a personal stance, I'd like for you to speak to the families, especially the moms.
Yeah.
You know, I really do hope that they take note of what you say, and it's in their New Year's resolutions, it's in their budget, actually, for the rest of the year, that, you know what, we're only going to spend this much. Come December, we don't spend much at all.
Yeah.
How do we work around that? How do we fix this that has actually been identified as a problem now?
It's honestly quite difficult because it's a mindset issue. I think growing up, we've always seen our parents buying us stuff on Christmas. So now you have your own kids and you're like, I can't miss out on this. I can't let my kids miss out on this. Christmas clothes. And especially moms to newborns and the young ones, you just feel that need, that urge to, oh goodness, I need to add more clothes for my baby. And those clothes outgrow them in a couple of months, and then you've wasted money. So it's just, I would also advise that in December, as you are shopping for the Christmas clothes and so on, use some of those funds to also start buying for those school necessities, so that you don't find yourself in January starting from scratch. If you're able to afford the school shoes in December, instead of maybe buying your child 2 pairs of sneakers, buy 1 pair of sneakers, buy the school shoes. You know, adjusting here and there, but making sure that by the time you realize how much you spent in December, you also see the value in the fact that you've also catered for some of the school needs that usually become an issue in January. So that's how I handled it.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Word to the wise: budget, prioritize your finances. And I really do hope that the moms were listening and took note of that one. You know, if you can afford a pair of shoes in December too, make sure that you also look into the school necessities as well during that period. Moving on, Bagcinile, how can then parents plan for future educational expenses beyond the current school year that's actually just starting out now?
Yeah, well, the key is to start early. Start as soon as you can, planning for the following year. Because I'm a mom to a newborn as well, so I would highly advise that as young as they are, start saving that 200 emalangeni every month and let the fund grow bit by bit. By the time your child starts school, you have maybe enough money to pay for even for even 2 years, two full school years, which puts you in a better position. So the plan is to start early. It's not too late. Even now, even if your kids are grown, you can start now in January. Just tell yourself that you are creating an educational fund for your child. You open an account. We do have an account at Nedbank called the Just Save account that is separate from your transacting account. So you can open that account and just tell yourself that every month you are maybe transferring 500 emalangeni to that account, and then you put it on automatic. You put it on a recurring series so that it debits you automatically than you having to send the money, because it's difficult for you to be touching there and transferring money every month. Whereas as if it's automated, then you know that this money is catering for this. So start in January so that when the year starts, the following school year starts, you already have funds that will assist you, maybe cater for 80% of your child's school fees or whatever school needs that there are in the beginning of the year.
Right.
Yeah, so starting early is the key.
Can you tell us a bit more about the educational fund, the offering of that sort? Where can we get more information? Is there a minimum amount that is expected?
Okay, basically you can be the one to turn because the product in itself is called a Just Save account, but you can turn it into an educational fund. The minimum balance there is 50 emalangeni. So you can start as little as 50 emalangeni just to save every month. You will know that this account that I've opened is purely for providing for my kids' educational needs rather. So yeah, that's how it works basically. You just make sure that you're depositing money every month, or even sometimes it happens you just have extra cash and you're like, you know what, instead of me going to buy debonaise, let me take this 200 or 300 malangeni and just transfer it to the educational fund.
So it doesn't always have to be a fixed monthly account?
No, it's flexible. It's flexible.
Right.
Yes, the fixed one can be the one that you know that no matter what, this money is going into the account on a monthly basis. And then you can add over and above that whenever there's funds that you feel are lying idle, or you have the need to now go, please yourselves, and you're like, no, let's just sit this one out and save this money.
Right.
Yeah.
In this digital era that we live in, everybody wants convenience.
Yes, of course.
And probably I'm a parent and the school has handed me out the deposit. They say they want this much. I probably don't have the time to go to the bank. I'm working. How do we work around that? What advice do you have for the parents that don't have the time to go queue at the banks?
Okay, we do have online banking platforms. So we have a banking app that you can download on your phone, which basically facilitates all types of transactions. So as long as you have the banking details of the school, you can simply transfer the money into the school's account. Just make sure you reference correctly the child's name and surname and the class they're in. And then all you have to do is give the child the proof of payment, because as you make a payment, you get an automated confirmation of payment on your email. So you print that out, you give it to the child if the school wants to see that proof of payment, and then they can submit. Or rather, if the school has an admin email, you can just forward that proof of payment to their admin email, and they're able to reconcile that this client has paid for their fees. Also, we now have, we've had them for a while, intelligent depositor machines for the parents that is working from 9 to 5 and is unable to go to the bank and deposit physical cash. You are able now to deposit on those ATMs. You don't have to wait for the bank to open. You don't have to be worried about the bank being closed, because these machines are available 24/7. We have them in various locations. Each branch, your Mbabane Manzini, Matapa, Lifestyle, Big Bend, Smunya, Buhleni, all the branches have these machines attached to the branch. Then over and above that, we do have the intelligent depositor machines that are off-site, which means they're not attached to branches. In your Hlatikulu, your Hluti, your Spofaneni, your Stegi, your Bunya, Kona Plaza. We also have Mahwalala now. And Manzini Hub.
Right.
Yeah. So it's flexible. You don't necessarily have to go deposit outside an ATM that is outside a branch.
Right.
Yes.
As we wrap it up, I'd like for you to assure our viewers, what's your promise to clients in terms of easing, the frustration, especially for the parents or the clients that have the time to go to the different branches and deposit physically? What's your promise to them in terms of service delivery, in terms of efficiency? What do you have to say?
We are there for them. Our promise is that we will be there to guide you accordingly when you need to make a deposit. Usually the different branches have a list of the school account numbers as well. So for those clients that you find that maybe they've lost the account number or they're having difficulty, in getting the account number, we do have that list of school account numbers so that you're not lost as a client and we're able to guide you. Okay, deposit into this account. It belongs to the school that you want to deposit to. And also, just we're there to advise the clients as well, because sometimes clients also do need advice from our consultants in terms of how they can structure their finances better to be able to cater for their kids to go to school and not have an issue, So yeah, we do offer those services. So please visit your nearest branch for the financial solutions if you need financial assistance. In terms of paying for the fees, you can just do it in the comfort of your home, relaxed any time of the day. You transfer. What's good now is that Central Bank has also introduced a fast pay solution whereby when you're transferring money from a Nedbank account to another bank, it doesn't now take a long time in terms of only clearing in the next two clearings. So now it's instant. So that does also help for amounts that are under 50,000. So that also helps for those that are sitting in the comfort of their home and using online banking. They're able to transfer and the money is transferred instantly.
Right.
Yeah.
Nguni, thank you very much for your insights for today. That was Bagcinile Simelane, who is Team Leader Sales at Nedbank Eswatini. If you were listening, key things: start planning early for your educational needs, for your family financial needs, and of course, you want to budget and save. While you're at it, be sure to take advantage of convenience that is through their Nedbank banking app. Otherwise, don't let the January back-to-school wars get to you. This is Nedbank Business Watch. The show continues after this.
You're watching Nedbank Business Watch, our first episode of the year. We get into this very important conversation now. The International Monetary Fund that has projected that Eswatini's economic growth is going to reach 4.6% this year, and it's going to be driven by both public and private sector projects. Now, this comes just as the World Bank releases its latest global economic prospect report, and it released it yesterday, showing that the global economy is proving more resilient than expected, and that is despite trade tensions as well as policy uncertainty that the whole world has been experiencing, and that is according to the World Bank. If you continue to look at the World Bank and what it expounds is that global growth is projected at 2.6% in 2026, developing developing economies are expected to grow by 4% in 2026, and sub-Saharan Africa growth is projected to rise to 4.3% in 2026. However, the bank warns that 1 in 4 developing economies is still poorer than in 2019. Now, that is scary. Public debt in developing countries is at its highest level in over 50 years, while growth remains too weak to significantly reduce poverty in Africa. We have questions for Sanele Sibiya, who is our economist, and he joins us now virtually. Sanele, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you for making time. We now have the IMF and the World Bank, and they are both making their projections. IMF says Eswatini is going to grow by 4.6% this year. The World Bank projects that sub-Saharan Africa growth is at 4.3%. How do these two outlooks speak to each other?
Thank you, Mr. Malo. And a good afternoon to you. So when we're looking at the two projections that we are seeing, Mr. Ngumalo, it could be that we're seeing a bit of divergence in the numbers, with the World Bank putting out a 3.8 for Eswatini, while the IMF had put out a 4.3 to 4.6 for Eswatini in the next coming year. But now you remember that the IMF number came out before Venezuela happened and before Iran happened. So quite a number of things may have actually shifted and moved within the global economy. But what we're also seeing overall, Mr. Ngumalo, is, in as much as we're doing a lot of analysis around the assumptions of what is going to drive growth in 2026, but, there's a lot of moving parts, more especially on the geopolitical front. We know there are talks around Greenland now. I mean, we've just moved from Venezuela to Greenland, and there's also a talk around a military action in Iran. So all of those issues are compounding to work out into what growth is going to look like in 2026, and most likely this would have an impact in terms of global supply chains and the overall reaction. But what I like the most is the growth prospects and the ability to put people out of poverty. So that's one of the issues that as a region, sub-Saharan Africa, including Eswatini, that's what we need to deal with. Our economies are growing, but it seems when you look at the fundamentals in terms of your unemployment rates, your poverty levels, and all other, your inequality, all those figures still remain high. So what that means, Ngumalo, is we need to drive growth to levels of 6 to 7%. We would have hoped that for Eswatini would have had ways to maintain growth momentum at above 5%, but ideally 7% should have been in a position to get us to a point where we're able to pull Eswatini out of poverty and also be in a position to get people into work. So we need to find those binding constraints to ensure that we're able to deal with those and unlock the full potential of the economy so that people can get employed, and we also get to reduce and ultimately alleviate poverty.
Of course, the World Bank saying that the global economy is resilient but slowing, with growth at 2.6% in 2026. And I think if I go by what you're saying is that the World Bank numbers being the most recent, perhaps it is wiser for us to focus mostly on those with this conversation. But again, they are saying global economy is resilient, but it's also slowing. Growth at 2.6% this year. How does a slowing global economy affect small economies like ours?
With overall slowing in the global economy, no matter what it means is there's overall going to be a decline in demand. And Eswatini is an exporter, is a trading economy. So what we then are going to be facing with is a bit of a subdued demand, and then most likely we're going to see a bit of export contraction. And ultimately, that's what's going to feed into our GDP figures. So that's what we needed to look into issues of diversifying the economy. So when the global economy slows, a Eswatini economy is also expected to slow. What one would have expected in that situation is for a bit of a stimulus to come in through from the domestic economy to ensure that at least you can show up what you call domestic demand, but I mean, there is also pretty limited scope around that front in terms of our fiscal pace. So we do need to look around reconfiguring the economy and ensuring that we are able to grow the economy at levels that will give growth. But yeah, the overall global prospects and given the geopolitics, things that we are seeing happening across the globe, they do show a bit of an indication towards supply chain disruptions. I mean, we've already seen one coming out of the Venezuela story, of the Iran story there, to say that all countries that are trading with Iran are now going to get a 25% tariff going through from the US. So now there's a lot of those shifts that we should expect the geopolitics to come to pivot into the economy, as it were.
Yeah, it's very important for the kingdom to insulate itself from those possible ripple effects. And of course, if the global economy sneezes, a lot of economies catch that cold, including us. But the bank warning, and I think this one for me was the most staggering one and most frightening one, where they are warning that 1 in 4 developing economies is still poorer than before COVID. Is our kingdom safely out of that danger zone, or are we still vulnerable?
We do remain vulnerable, Mr. Nxumalo, but when you look at the numbers, our recovery was a bit ahead of the pack, but we still do remain a bit vulnerable to those, post-COVID recovery hurdles that the global world is facing. And we've also seen other geopolitics come into play. And as you would know, Eswatini is dealing with a problem of high unemployment, and we know that's one problem we've been trying to deal with. And so now that's an indicator that in as much as the economy may have grown above those stagnation levels of 2.8, 1.9% that we've been seeing in the past 2 decades, but it's still failing to create the jobs that we need to get people into work. And then that means our poverty rates remain relatively high. So I think we are borderline one of those states that the bank was referring to there.
Yeah, it's quite interesting indeed. And looking at the projection, the growth projection that the World Bank is submitting, and of course the one that was initially submitted by the IMF, which specific sectors here in Eswatini are likely to drive this projected growth? Is it mining? Is it agriculture, manufacturing, services, infrastructure? What is it really, if we are to really leverage the potential that this whole year has for us economically?
So economically, we should look at growth continuing to come through from, the secondary sector, that's through your construction, and also the primary sector, mining. We are, as a country, pushing towards ensuring that we are extracting our minerals off of the ground. However, we do not have much scope for more fiscal-led type of investments, the ones that got us to the levels that we saw in terms of growth this year. So we do expect that the mining, the construction, and the retail sector, also with ICT, we expect those sectors to be the ones that are driving growth. And, agriculture also to a certain extent is expected to continue being a major contributor. But one of the main drivers of growth is actually going to be consumption, Mr. Nxumalo. And if you look at our growth story throughout the decade, consumption has been one of those major drivers of growth. And if you look at the inflation forecast, it does really put the consumer at a better spending point this year, because we're expecting inflation to be in the region of 3 to 3.5%.
Unfortunately, we have run out of our talk time here, but perhaps just as a parting shot, World Bank highlighting that job creation is a major challenge, with 1.2 billion young people entering the labor market globally over the next decade. In one sentence, please, in one sentence, what does this mean for youth unemployment in Eswatini? Just one sentence.
It basically means the demographic dividend will become a demographic curse if we are not making the right investments.
And construction at the forefront, if we're going to leverage what this economy this year is submitting. I do see some jobs opening there, and perhaps we are not going to be affected a lot in that regard. Thank you for your time. Let's go for a net break. We have Toba from Nedbank to give us our market analysis with Notsilas Tole. Stay with us.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
Eswatini TV has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Eswatini Communications Commission. We are committed to reporting news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that does not amount to hate speech or the description of gratuitous violence or explicit sex. For any complaints of our programming, please contact us on 2411-9600 or email info@eswatinitv.co.za. You can also contact the Eswatini Communications Commission on 2406-7000 or write a letter to ECCOM on PO Box 7811 Mbabane. Email address is info@ecom.org.sz.
Welcome back. Still, thank you very much for staying with us. And now we're on to our market analysis segment. And Toba Kameze, who is the Treasury Sales Manager at Nedbank, joins me in the studio. Kameze, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Good. Great. Let's get to it. So the Department of Justice in the U.S. is investigating Fed Chair. Of course, had him subpoenaed as well. Is that affecting market confidence in any way?
Yes, it is. It just gives jitters to investors, on the independence of the Fed, because the charges are around renovations that happened, from a report last year, but there's just that, I'm not sure if I can call it expectation, or if I will just say it is more of sentiment that it's about the president wanting the Fed to cut interest rates, and how that is not going in a pace that he would like. So that then weighs on the independence of the Fed from the administration, and these are bodies that are supposed to be independent of each other.
Right. And when we look at the numbers today, perhaps like for us to start off with commodities, if we may. Okay. Metal prices are seemingly, hitting record highs. What's exactly behind this?
Yeah, so we are seeing gold going at, I think, around 4,600 and some change today. Levels that are really good, at 1.04%. Silver as well, hitting the $90 mark, with expectations of probably going to 100. So that is due to the uncertainty that is in the market. There's a lot of geopolitical tensions. We've got the Iran unrest. We have the situation in Venezuela, and the ongoing Ukraine-Russia conflict as well. So all of that and the depreciating dollar sort of then pushing investors into safer options than boosting the price of gold.
With regards to the situation in Iran, President Trump threatened to slap at least a 25% tariff on its trading partners. Should we, the rest of the world, should we be worried about the trade war that he's probably getting himself into now. It's already been there, but it does seem to be escalating.
Yeah. So So the situation in Iran is quite alarming. I think so far about 2,500 people have died, and the president has come out to say, well, Trump has come out to say that the Iranians should continue fighting. Help is on the way, which the Iranian government has said is inciting violence. So it is a concern in terms of how that is going to translate economically. And now when we are bringing tariffs into the play, then it brings a broader discussion which could lead to escalations of the trade war that we've seen from early 2025.
Right. And the global demands for metal or the different precious commodities, how is that pouring into currencies?
So we've seen, I'll speak specifically to the rand, which is, what we mostly look at in our region. So the rand is, benefited quite well from the increase in the price of precious metals. We know that South Africa, produces or exports a lot of these metals. It's a mine or mineral-based economy. So with the price of gold, the price of palladium, the price of silver and so forth, hitting the records that we're seeing now, that has really boosted the rand, trading at levels of about 16.4, 16.3 today, which are quite good. So the rand has gained quite a bit from these levels that we see in commodities.
Right. Now let's talk equities. We've seen reports of a snap election in Japan, which then saw perhaps a sustained weakness of the yen. What's exactly going on there?
So can you repeat?
With regards to equities,
yes,
we've seen reports of the snap election in Japan, and that may have then influenced the performance of the yen. How are things looking now?
Yeah, so in terms of equities, we've seen we've seen a not so good performance on them. I'll speak to globally. We have the S&P 500, for example, trading at around 6,900, 0.19% lower. And that has been because of the risk sentiments that are in them in the market, which cut across. You've mentioned the yen and Japan. So there is that uncertainty that is brought about by the tensions that are in the market, by the the uncertainties that we're seeing.
Right.
Yeah.
Toba, thank you very much for your insights. That was Toba Kamete, who is the Treasury Sales Manager at Nedbank, sharing insights on today's trading. Otherwise, this has been Nedbank Business Watch, the first edition for the year 2026. Thank you Thank you for staying with us. We look forward to having more productions as the year goes on. Until next time, bye-bye.
Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch was brought to you by Nedbank.
Way up high, in the bluest sky. but behind a cloud that's wide and fluffy lies a land completely puffy. It's a squishy, squashy, cuddly, snuggly, bouncy.